Okay, so when you're building software, you're making big decisions all the time. But what if I told you the single most consequential choice you'll ever make happens way before you write a single line of business logic? I'm talking about the data model. And let me tell you, choosing the wrong one doesn't just slow you down, it can literally stop you dead in your tracks, making entire features impossible to build.
All right, let's make this real. Imagine your task for the day is to build LinkedIn from scratch. You've got user profiles, right? And each profile has work history, education, skills, connections. It's a whole web of interconnected stuff. So the big question is, how on earth do you store all of that?
Well, on one hand, you could go the super organized route. Break everything down into these neat, separate tables. One for users, one for jobs, one for schools, and then you just link them all together. Or you could just jam everything for one user into a single big JSON document. This one slide right here perfectly captures the fundamental conflict we're digging into today: the structured, rigid world of tables versus the flexible, free-for-all world of documents.
So let's kick things off with the reigning, undisputed champion, the model that has basically run the entire software industry for half a century, the relational model, the absolute powerhouse behind SQL.
Now, I'm serious, think about that for a second. If you're a developer, you probably use SQL all the time. But have you ever really stopped to ask why? Why did this one idea, cooked up back in 1970, beat out every single competitor for decades? The answer isn't just tables. It's about a hidden genius baked right into its core.
So on the surface, it's pretty straightforward. You organize all your data into tables, which are really just collections of rows. And to connect, say, a user to their job history, you use a foreign key. It's just an ID that links one table to another. And when you need to see everything at once, you just tell the database to join them back up.
Okay, and this is the secret sauce. This is the magic trick that explains why SQL won. With SQL, you don't tell the database how to get the data, you just declare what you want. And then this incredible piece of technology called the Query Optimizer, the database's brain, looks at all the possible ways to get your data and figures out the absolute fastest path. It's this beautiful abstraction that separates your intent from the execution.
The other superpower here is something called normalization. And the idea is deceptively simple. Every single piece of information, like a company's name or a city, is stored in exactly one place. That's it. So if that company rebrands, you update one single row, not 10 million user profiles. This just wipes out data redundancy and makes keeping things consistent a breeze.
But you know, all that structure, all that rigidity, it started to feel like a straitjacket for some developers, and that of course led to a rebellion. The NoSQL movement wasn't just about handling massive scale, it was about finding a more flexible way to build in a much faster moving world.
So you have document databases, think MongoDB, that basically came along and said, joins, we don't need them. Instead, they store data in these self-contained documents, usually JSON. All the info for a user's profile lives together in one place. This gives you great data locality, which means the database can just grab that one file in a single go, super fast. And it perfectly marries how objects look in your code, which cuts down on that annoying impedance mismatch between your app and your database.
Now, this slide gets at a really deep philosophical difference. On the left, relational databases use what's called schema on write. The database forces your data to fit a strict structure the moment you save it. Think of it like a statically typed language like Go or Java. On the right, document databases use schema on read. You can throw whatever you want in there, the structure is all figured out by your code when you read it back. It's a lot more like a dynamic language like Python or JavaScript. Way more flexible, but yeah, the risk of things breaking at runtime is now on you.
So, if this flexibility is so awesome, why are modern document databases running headfirst into a wall? A wall that IBM discovered way back in 1968, while they were working on the Apollo space program, of all things.
Well, because history, as they say, has a funny way of repeating itself. See, IBM's database back then was a hierarchical model, basically an early version of JSON. And it was awesome for one-to-many relationships, like a user having many jobs. But it just completely fell apart when you had many-to-many relationships, like users having many friends who also have many friends. The relational model was literally invented to solve this exact problem. And today, yep, document databases are hitting that very same wall.
And that failure, that specific problem with many-to-many connections, leads us right to our third model, one that was built from the ground up for a world where everything is interconnected, the graph model.
See, in a graph model, the connections, the relationships, aren't an afterthought. They're first-class citizens, just as important as the data itself. You've got your vertices, or nodes. Those are the things, like people and places. And then you have edges, which are the relationships between them. A follows on a social network isn't just a number in a column. It's a rich piece of data all on its own.
So when does choosing the right model make the biggest difference? Well, let me ask you this. When does 4 simple lines of code absolutely demolish 29 lines of dense, complicated code?
Okay, just take a second and let your eyes glaze over this. This is what it takes in SQL to find all the locations inside the United States. It's 29 lines long, using a super complex feature called a recursive common table expression. You don't even have to understand it to feel how complex it is. This thing is a monster to write, and it's even worse to debug. You can almost feel the friction of forcing a graph problem into a relational box.
Okay, now, deep breath. Look at this. This is the exact same query, but written in Cypher, a graph query language. 4 lines. It's clean, it's elegant, you can actually read it like a sentence, and those little arrows, they're not just for show, they're literally drawing the path you're looking for. The clarity here isn't just nice syntax, it's a massive sign that your data model and your problem are finally in perfect harmony.
So, what does this all mean? Is it relational versus document versus graph, a fight to the death? No, not at all. The truth is, the whole database wars thing is over. The best ideas are winning, and all these models are starting to blend together.
Take a look at modern databases. They're becoming hybrids. PostgreSQL, the kin of relational, now has amazing native JSON support. Document databases are starting to add back relational-style joins. And Google Spanner gives you the locality of a document store with a relational model. The lines are getting really, really blurry.
And this leads to what modern engineering teams call polyglot persistence. It's a fancy term for a simple, powerful idea. Stop looking for one database to rule them all. Instead, mature teams use the right tool for the right job. They'll use Postgres for their core transactions, a graph database for social features, and a document store for logging, all working together in the same system.
All right, this slide here is your cheat sheet. It kind of pulls everything we've talked about together and even adds a couple of new ones. You can see SQL for your classic tables and Cypher for those graph traversals. But you also see things like Sparkle for a different kind of graph called a triple store, and Datalog for really complex logic problems. The big takeaway is that each language is finely tuned for a specific shape of data. Seriously, go ahead and pause here. This is a super handy reference for matching your next project to the right model.
So let's just agree to stop the SQL versus no SQL debate. It's over. It's the wrong conversation. The much more important question that every single developer should be asking is this: what is the shape of my data, and which model lets me express that shape the most naturally? Answering that question, that is the true foundation of great architecture.